Alright, so I'm back again taking a look at some hilariously bad negative reviews for a critically acclaimed video game. Today's video game in question is the brand new Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Let's jump straight in with our first review, which comes from Spas Bremsi. This is just a physics platformer wearing the skin of a Zelda game, and it is tedious and boring. I hope you like spawning a rock, grabbing a rock, and chucking it at an enemy, because that's all I ever did. Zelda cannot defend herself, and so the combat becomes an aggravating slog. The overuse of Tears of the Kingdom style bokoblin camps, the blatant copy and pasting of Tears of the Kingdom / Breath of the Wild style runs into the game, and the awful UI choices that everyone complained about in Tears of the Kingdom are here, completely unaltered. It is like Nintendo wants to homogenize every single Zelda game into the same boring, tedious, unfun experience. If this is where the series is going, then I'm done. I refuse to play new Zelda installments that aren't well thought out, challenging, and do not treat the player like an absolute moron. Utter trash. 0 out of 10. Well, that's one unhappy player. Next up is Stayrus, and here is what they said about Echoes of Wisdom. This game would be a 10 out of 10 for me if it wasn't for the endless drooling dialogue. There is more reading in this game than all the dialogue in the last two Zelda thus out. It doesn't draw the player in. It bores us and we drop out of the game. I literally quit after the first boss, where you have to click skip 50 plus times from all the mindless blabbing. In the past, Zelda games have been impactful and endearing, with minimal use of text reams. Don't lose that. I also hate the chibi character design. Just like Wind Waker, the world is gorgeous, but the inhuman sack of potato character is very off-putting. 4 out of 10. I don't think most people will be put off by the amount of dialogue, as I feel like this person is over-exaggerating quite a lot. I can see the art style used here potentially putting some people off the game, but I don't think any of the characters look like a sack of potatoes. Farbenblind has left us with a pretty short review for the game. Gets boring very fast. Sad face. For a Nintendo game. UI is a big issue as well. The puzzles are very boring. Echo's mechanic is boring, so is combat. I have to say it's boring, like a mobile game. 4 out of 10. I mean, maybe this just isn't the game for you, but like, how can you find the mechanics in Echoes of the Wisdom to be boring? I have a lot of fun messing around and experimenting with all the different Echo types in the game to work out how to best solve the puzzles and how to most effectively defeat enemies. I do understand the complaints made about the game's UI, because once you've gained a lot of these different Echo types, trying to use this one menu to scroll through and select the Echo you want can become tedious very quickly. Clunky UI aside, this is still a really fun game, and it's definitely not like a mobile game. Triadny originally gave The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom a pretty decent score, but they have now downgraded their review score to a 0 out of 10. Let's find out why. Edit. Downgrading the score to a 0 after I was just forced to follow an NPC to a location, which quite frankly infuriated me. I wanted to go through a door and investigate, but each time I tried to go, the NPC would shout at me and I would be teleported back to the right path. Games that claim to encourage experimentation and creativity should not turn around and take away all your agency at the developer's whim. It's quite frankly abusive. As a result, I just jabbed the button to get past the sequence as fast as possible and go back to the door I wanted to go in. Then after I was ready to go to the destination, nothing happened there because I had already skipped it all in a blind range. Games are meant to give you a sense of power and agency, a sense of joy and wonder. This game offers some fun, but on its own terms and only if you submit to its control. This game is a good metaphor for what Nintendo has become. I think I know which part of the game this person is talking about, which actually makes this review even funnier. So for context, without going into spoilers, quite early on into the game, you'll have to follow this blue-haired lady to someone's house. On the way there, you might spot a cave you can go into, but if you try to go in there, the lady will tell you not to get distracted and to keep following her. So what I did was made a mental note in my head of where the cave was, then continued to follow the lady to carry on with the current story quest. Then when that very short section of the game was over, I went back over to that cave to explore it. Like, my guy, there was no need to get so angry about something as minor as this. And that shouldn't be the reason why you give this game a 0 out of 10 review score. Little Kill Pappy has played through Echoes of Wisdom and they have some thoughts about the game. Just like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, this Zelda has zero challenge to it. For me, Zelda has always been defined by its challenging puzzles. Sadly, I think this spells the end of my love affair with this franchise. It breaks my heart. 3 out of 10. Damn, this is actually quite a sad review. Our next review comes from only one here, and this person has actually been featured previously in one of my hilariously bad review videos. And some of you lot in the comments were saying that this guy has a bit of a reputation for giving out overwhelmingly negative reviews on popular video games. But let's still take a look at what only one here has to say about Echoes of Wisdom. This game is a huge steaming pile of garbage. The greedy developers are charging $60 for a mobile game. This game copy and pasted so many assets from Link's Awakening 2019. It is the exact same game. First Tears of the Kingdom and now this. And you Zelda fans have the audacity to make fun of COD for being the same game every year. Yet you have to wait at least half a decade to get the same game. The graphics are a joke. The physics are beyond horrible. The gameplay is boring and repetitive. No tree variety. You see the same tree copy and pasted everywhere. You can't open chests in real time. The broken pieces of a pot or a flying tile magically fall under the ground, rather than landing on surface. Zelda's clothes don't get soaked, nor does the water land on the surface. A basic detail PS3 games can get right. The UI is terrible. When I pay $60, I expect top-notch AAA quality. It's already bad enough that Breath of the Wild looks like an indie game, but the quality of this game is downgraded even further for the same price. Just look at the eyes, for example. Breath of the Wild has the sclera, iris and pupil, whereas this trash only has the pupil, shaped like the ones you see on Steamboat Mickey Mouse. This was clearly a lazy attempt from the developers to avoid animating eyeball movements and blinking. Just going to pause here for a second to comment on some of the points brought up in this review so far. The main points that have been made so far are about the graphics and that the developers are apparently lazy. Now, Echoes of Wisdom reuses the same art style and lots of the same assets from the Link's Awakening remake on Switch. I know not everyone is a fan of this art style, but I personally really like it. And you know, it is fairly common for developers to take assets from their previous games and then reuse them in newer games. The developers aren't lazy for doing this, it's just efficient. Remaking an entirely new art style and assets from the ground up would have led to Echoes of Wisdom having a much longer development time, and the game would have taken longer to be released. Also, trying to say the developers are lazy for not animating eye tracking movements is completely ridiculous. Let's read some more of this review. Furthermore, the lazy developers use the top-down camera in a pathetic attempt to not have to design the fourth wall or roof in interiors. Speaking of which, there are no real-time interiors. It's the same trash as GTA San Andreas, and you can go inside a small building and you spawn in a giant interior that's clearly too big for it. Speaking of GTA San Andreas, the characters' fingers are stuck together. It was pathetic in 2004, and I can't believe we have the same problem 20 years later. No voice acting. Dude, you can't be taking all these shortcuts and charge $60. I expect you developers to work hard for that price. I don't think I've ever seen anyone complain about a game being bad because the characters' fingers were all stuck together. Again, it's definitely not that big of an issue at all. The top-down camera complaints I don't really understand, because quite a lot of the 2D Zelda games play from a top-down perspective, and the lack of voice acting again just isn't really that big of a deal. Let's continue. $60 for a game with no replay value is a cash grab, so all I get is a campaign around the 11-hour mark and that's it. I would have beaten it faster if I was allowed to do it my way. They should have at least added co-op for the campaign, so we could see how other players solve puzzles. Although that's not good enough for me, I prefer PvP or exclusive content for co-op. The developers heavily advertise the ability to play as Zelda, which is nothing more than a gimmick that gets old very fast. How about they spend time actually improving the performance instead of coming up with gimmicks? It's unacceptable that this indie quality game has the same price tag as something like RDR2 or The Last of Us 2, even if I hate the latter more so than this game. This is the equivalent of a McDonald's cheeseburger being priced the same as a truffle. It's pathetic. I don't recommend this game at all. 0 out of 10. Wow, what a journey that review was. Out of curiosity, I decided to check out Only One Here's Metacritic profile page, and yeah, this guy definitely seems to be allergic to good video games. An average review score of 0.7 is unbelievable. Well, I think after that, we'll leave it there for today. But if you want to check out my review for 2 other Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, then check out this video, where these 2 games go up against each other to see which is the best. That video took a very long time to make, so I would be really grateful if you went over to go give it a watch.